Yo, what's up with y'all? Y'all already know, man. Some stories in hip hop get remembered, and some slowly fade away and get forgotten. Welcome to Remember the Era, man. Man, listen. If you was outside in 2004, then you already know it was no escaping J-Kwon. I'm talking clubs, house parties, school dances, skating ring, people bumping it in the car systems, BET 106 and Park, MTV jams. The radio was spinning it like crazy. Everywhere you went, man, it was like somebody was yelling. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. You know what I'm saying? And for a moment, man, it looked like J-Kwon was up next. You know what I'm saying? He wasn't just another rapper. You know what I'm saying? But like, he seemed like he was gonna be the next big superstar. But just as fast as he arrived, it seemed like, he disappeared. You know what I'm saying? Like, so what happened to him? Did he get blackballed? Did the industry move on? Was it more to his story? Let's talk about it, man. So, to understand J-Kwon, you have to understand the time period. The early 2000s was different. Hip hop was changing. The South was rising. The internet wasn't running music yet. Streaming didn't exist. TikTok wasn't around. Spotify hadn't hit the scene yet. And if you wanted a hit, you needed radio. You needed DJs. You needed BET. You also needed the clubs. And in 2004, nobody controlled the clubs like Southern music. Lil Jon was everywhere. The Yin Yang Twins was everywhere. Petey Pablo had popped up. Crunk music had the entire country in a chokehold. People wanted energy. They wanted party records. They wanted songs that made everybody get up and get crunk, as we used to say back then. And in the middle of that movement, a teenager from St. Louis entered the picture. His name was J-Kwon. And contrary to popular belief, J-Kwon wasn't just a random artist that just appeared overnight. He had been grinding for years growing up in St. Louis. Learning the music business, trying to find his opportunity, and eventually that opportunity arrived. He signed with Gracie Productions, a label connected to So Def, which meant it was real industry forces behind him. He had real promotion, real connection, real opportunities. But even with all of that, nobody could have predicted what would have happened next. In 2004, J-Kwon released Tipsy. At first, it didn't seem like anything unusual, just another party record, just another club song, just another Southern influence anthem. But then something happened. The song started spreading. DJs started playing it. Crowds started reacting. Radio stations started adding it to the playlist. And before long, the record exploded. The hook was simple. The beat was simple. The concept of the whole song was simple. But that's exactly why it worked. Everybody could sing it. Everybody could remember it. Everybody could participate. And before you knew it, the entire country, I'm talking about the whole country, was saying the same thing. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. Everybody in the club getting tipsy. Now, this where the story get interesting. A lot of people remember Tipsy being popular, but they don't realize just how popular it really was. The song climbed all the way to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100. Now, chew on that. Now, sip on that for a minute. You know, not 22, not 12, but the number 2 in the whole country, bro. You know, only one song stood between J. Cole and the number 1 spot. You know, for a teenager from St. Louis, that was incredible. And all of a sudden, the industry started paying attention. J-Kwon started popping up everywhere. BET, 106 and Park, award shows, interviews, magazine features, you know, touring all across the country. You know, the machine was rolling. And once that machine started rolling, everything started happening fast, you know. And sometimes it could happen too fast. Because while the world was celebrating Tipsy, the label was already asking a different question. What's next? Soon after the success of Tipsy, J-Kwon released his debut album, Hood Hop. The album did pretty good, you know, especially for a new artist. You know, fans were interested in, you know, what he was talking about. You know, people wanted more. The problem was following up a monster hit is one of the hardest jobs in the music industry, you know, because now expectations change. Nobody compares you to other artists anymore. They compare you to your biggest record, you know, and that's a fight most artists end up losing. Think about how many artists have had one song that defined their entire career, you know? It happen all the time, you know, not because they're untalented or nothing like that, not because they stopped working, not because they got lazy or anything like that. Sometimes a song just gets so big that can't nothing else realistically compete with it, you know? And that's exactly what happened with Tipsy. The song became bigger than J-Kwon himself. You know, people remember the anthem, but they didn't always remember the artist. And this something else to think about that a lot of artists don't think about, you know. The music industry is always looking for the next thing. Always, you know. Every year, it's a new sound. It's a new trend, a new artist, a new movement, you know. And if you don't keep producing major hits, the spotlight, it start moving somewhere else, you know. It ain't always personal. Most of the time it's business, you know what I'm saying? But by the mid 2000s, you know, hip hop was already changing again, you know. New artists was coming in the game, new sounds was taking over, and J-Kwon found himself competing in a completely different environment. Then came his personal challenges, you know, legal troubles, industry frustrations, pressures that come with sudden fame. And if I'm being honest, you know what I'm saying, a lot of young artists, they ain't ready for, you know, that kind of success, you know, that fast. Imagine being famous while you still trying to figure out who you really are, you know what I'm saying? Imagine having all of that money, attention, expectations, criticisms, all at the same time being a young teenager, you know what I'm saying? That'll be difficult for anybody, you know, especially, like I say, somebody that young. Then one of the strangest moments of J-Kwon's career happened, you know. Rumors started spreading online that he had died. Seriously. Now I remember that, you know, like seriously, you know, because I thought he had died, you know, and people actually started believing it, you know. The story, you know, it moved across forums, it moved across blogs, social media, and before long, fans everywhere was repeating it. You know what I'm saying? The problem was it wasn't true. Not even close, you know what I'm saying? That man was still alive, man, you know, and alive and well. It's one of the weirdest celebrity rumors from that era, you know what I'm saying? Imagine opening your phone and discovering people thinking you dead. That was crazy, man, you know what I'm saying? Especially back then, cause like I say, I even thought he was dead. But despite what many people believe, J-Kwon never stopped making music. He continued releasing projects, he continued performing, you know, he continued recording, continued, you know, building his career. The difference is, he wasn't doing it under the same spotlight. And really, that's the reality for a lot of artists. You know, not everybody stay on the top of the charts, you know what I'm saying? But that don't mean that they gone. It just mean they working in a different lane. But you know, today, whenever people hear Tipsy, you know, something happen. They instantly get transported back to them school dances, back to them house parties, you know, back to that burnt CD era, you know what I'm saying? Back to them big ass jerseys we used to wear, the throwbacks, you know what I'm saying? Back to the Air Force One, back to them good old early 2000s, you know what I'm saying? One song, you know, one memory, one era, you know? And, you know, I think, you know, that's why a lot of people, you know, still talk about J-Kwon when they remember him, you know what I'm saying? Because whether you realize it or not, you know, he helped soundtrack a moment in hip-hop history, you know? So, whatever happened to him, you know? The truth is, you know what I'm saying, he didn't disappear, you know what I'm saying? He didn't quit, he didn't vanish, you know? He experienced something that happened to a lot of artists, man, you know what I'm saying? He created a massive record, a massive wave, a generation-defining record, a record so big that it became hard to escape the shadow of it, you know? But even if he wanted to match the success of Tipsy, you know, his place in hip-hop history is already secure. Because whenever those opening notes come on, everybody already know what's coming next. And y'all, you know, that's the thing about the early 2000s, you know what I'm saying? A lot of artists only needed one record to leave their mark forever, you know? Whether you call J-Kwon a one-hit wonder or not, you know what I'm saying? One thing is for sure, you know what I'm saying? You can't really bring up 2004 without mentioning him or that song, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, y'all drop something in the comment, man. Y'all let me know, you know what I'm saying? Do y'all, you know, where y'all was at, you know, when Tipsy first dropped, you know what I'm saying? Was you at the school dance? Was you know, riding around in the car with your boys with the, you know, window down, you know what I'm saying? You know, what y'all were doing at that time, man? Was you in the club getting Tipsy? You know what I'm saying? Let me know, man. And, you know, y'all, keep tapping in with your boy, man. Keep tapping in with South Entertainment, man. SouthEntMusic.com, man. Y'all show some support, man. And, you know, I appreciate it, man. Until next time, man. Peace.